On this episode of Cape Media News, local legislators take steps to protect the local aquaculture industry. New recycling regulations are in effect in Barnstable. Cape Air takes flight to New York, and Captain Lazarus's haunted harbor opens this weekend at the Cape Cod Community Media Center. These stories and more. This is Cape Media News. This is Cape Media News, your local authentic newscast for Cape Cod. I'm Sarah Colvin. Thank you so much for joining us today. We start in Marston's Mills, where this Tuesday, stakeholders gathered for an important announcement that will impact the future of our shellfish industry. The shellfish industry is big business on Cape Cod, bringing millions of dollars to the local economy every year. But in order for it to thrive, we need healthy oceans, and increasing ocean acidification is a real threat that, if not properly managed, could mean big trouble for our shellfish industry.
Our oceans are absorbing 20 to 30% of the carbon that's released into the atmosphere, and that carbon that the ocean is absorbing is causing it to rapidly acidify when it dissolves. And if the oceans become too acidic, then shellfish can't form their shells. And if that happens, then we see the collapse of our oysters, of our scallops, of our lobsters, and a whole host of other species.
On the West Coast, when acidification first struck, the hatcheries literally were unable to produce seed. So what we're seeing now is we're still in really good shape. Our seed is being produced, acid levels have stayed low, but if we hit a tipping point on this, the crucial little piece that starts off a $490 million a year industry in Massachusetts is jeopardized.
That's why Cape and Island State Senator Julian Cyr and State Representative Dylan Fernandes teamed up to write legislation that will help take a close look at the effects of ocean acidification. Plans to form a new study committee were announced Tuesday at the Cape Cod Oyster Company in Marston's Mills.
It establishes a special commission to study the effects of coastal and ocean acidification, and also to look at how that impacts our commercial fisheries, particularly on aquaculture.
This bill is a culmination of several years of effort from my predecessor, Tim Madden, also from the terrific institutions that we have in Woods Hole. The Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution and MBL have been pushing this for several years, along with the Lobstermen's and Aquaculture Association here in Massachusetts.
Studying the effects of ocean acidification will help protect important jobs and careers within the shellfish industry.
Very important to get a baseline of what our water chemistry is all about, so that we can prepare and be ahead of it, so that our industry can continue to do well.
It's not only about our environment and addressing what's been called climate change evil twin and ocean acidification, but at the end of the day, it's really about a jobs bill that not only preserves our incredible fishing industry here on the Cape and Islands, but also an industry that, when you think about the Cape and Islands, you really identify with in the fishing industry, in the shell fishing industry.
These are year-round jobs, they're local jobs, they're green jobs, they're blue economy jobs, they build communities. We have young families up and down the coast who are able to be here. So this is exactly the kind of economy that we want to build. And just in terms of commercial licenses alone, I think there's something like 1,500 families or farms working. There's another 10,000 permits that go to towns. ARC seeds the public areas, as well as providing seed to private growers. So it's a crucial, amazing little piece of our economy.
We're getting all the experts, all the stakeholders in the room together to look at the challenges we face, what potentially may happen here, and how do we get ahead of that curve, is really about protecting this aquaculture industry, which is a growing industry.
The next step is to choose members for this new commission, and Cape Codders will have a seat at the table.
Everyone you saw here today in this press conference basically will have a seat at that table. The best scientific minds that you can, the best wisdom you can get in the industry to really make sure that we're safe. We're getting a series of recommendations that'll safeguard the industry moving forward.
Today is just a really great day for shellfishing, also for science and our environment.
The Commission's goal is to address critical science and general knowledge gaps that will help in future policymaking efforts. The 17-member commission will form in the coming weeks, with a report expected in late 2019. For Cape Media News, I'm Sarah Colvin. And if you're interested in supporting the local industry, or if you just like oysters and beer, you can head to Cape Cod Beer this Saturday for Shuck. That takes place from noon to 5. A fatal shark encounter this September in Wellfleet sparked a large conversation with town officials and residents. A community meeting was held several weeks ago. Cape Media News was there.
Following the state's first shark-related death in more than 80 years, hundreds of concerned citizens gathered at Wellfleet's Community Forum to find out how they can stay safe at the beach and in the water.
We have failed as a community. We all knew that the risks were increasing out in the water, and we did very little to change.
I've been surfing and swimming in the outer beaches for 35 years. I won't allow my kids to go in anymore.
As a citizen, what I tell my son, how can we enjoy this beach again? How can we feel safe in the water? I think we need more eyes, whatever form that is, wherever the money needs to come from. We need more eyes. We need to let people know when they need to get out of the water when there's a threat.
Wellfleet has invested in new lifeguard chairs, military-grade tourniquets, and implemented life-saving safety training for all who want it. Some say it's not enough, but the town says it's a regional issue.
We are entering an era that will require mindfulness and caution.
We need to watch the people in the water the way my mother watched me when I was a child.
We cannot put anything out there that will guarantee that you're never going to run into a shark, that no one will ever be attacked by a shark. We can't change shark behavior. We can change human behavior through education. And that is what Wellfleet has been trying to do.
A shark doesn't know our boundaries of our towns. So we look at this as something that's got to be a solution really with all of the Cape towns and with the National Seashore.
It's not just a Wellfleet issue or a Truro issue or a Chatham issue. This is a regional issue. And I may be the person that's at your meeting tonight, but I can assure you, I am speaking on behalf of the entire delegation. We speak as one voice, representatives and senators, Democrats and Republicans. It doesn't matter. We are united on this, and we are going, by God, to give you our best.
Although Wellfleet will have to do more research before it can implement any new solutions, many feel the forum was a step in the right direction.
I think it's great, some of the ideas that people are throwing out there as far as increasing our own awareness, increasing education, increasing our own surveillance of the environment. There's a lot we don't know about the ocean. It's so important to learn more about all the species that inhabit it, and also what they're telling us about the health of the ocean and how we as humans are impacting that.
The way that we can go forward is to get the science that we do know, provide that to managers, to towns, provide solutions, do education, do outreach, minimize our interactions with these animals that could be detrimental, and just talk to one another and have these forums where we're not just talking over each other, but listening to each other and figuring out what the best solution forward is.
Wellfleet officials plan to meet again and will hold another community forum. For Cape Media News, I'm Gabrielle Rawson.
Local fire departments are now offering Stop the Bleed training to help beachgoers to be better prepared to help. More community meetings on the issue are scheduled. Up next, getting to New York City will soon be a bit easier. Cape Air is about to launch a brand new service.
Na 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 na, I love you so. I love we're here.
It's a short drive from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
For the past 5 summers, JetBlue has been flying passengers between Cape Cod and New York City. And now Cape Air is stepping up to fill in the off-season gap. A new daily service between Hyannis and New York's JFK begins this month. Dan Wolf has been flying planes with Cape Air since the late 1980s. He started the airline with a small crew and over the years has expanded to reach multiple markets and multiple destinations. The latest upgrade is a new off-season service between Hyannis and New York City.
First scheduled service in 1989, but we incorporated in 1988. There were about 6 of us that got it together, flying one airplane between Provincetown and Boston. There's a real rich history there. Here we are almost 30 years later, and it's just been a dream come true. It's been a real blessing. And to grow a business like this here on Cape Cod has just been an extra bonus to the whole thing. It's just been incredible. Cape Air has tried to keep the flavor of a small community-based airline, and of course our home is still here on Cape Cod. But we have a hub in San Juan, we have a hub in Billings, Montana, St. Louis, Missouri. And so we really are all over North America and all over the continent. This is just an extension of that service. We are the largest commuter airline in the United States. We have been for a number of years.
JetBlue's busy summer service between New York City and Cape Cod is an indicator of just how much this area needs transportation alternatives.
There's definitely a demand here between Cape Cod and the islands and New York City. And we're just capturing some of that demand. We've heard it for years. We were able to go to the Department of Transportation. JFK is a slotted airport, so you have to get approved for landing and departure times. We were able to get that, which we've never been able to get in the past for a late morning arrival and departure, and we decided to go for it. I think it's a good year to do it. JetBlue has been there for the summer now. We're doing this with the JetBlue code, which means the connectivity in and out of JFK is going to be really good on Cape Air, and we're really excited to kick off the service.
Wolf says all types of passengers will likely take advantage of the new service.
Well, like so many of our markets, it's going to be a great mix of people who are visitors here, people who are retired wanting to go to New York City, and then people on business. I think there's a real business demand and connection between the Cape and Islands and New York City, and I think it's going to cater to all types and for all reasons.
The flight is also a chance to experience air travel in a different way aboard a small Cessna 402.
We're going to be using the Cessna 402, which is the same airplane that we've been operating here for the last 30 years or so. And so that's going to be the mainstay of that service, just like it has for all the other routes around the Cape and Islands. Well, I still love to fly as a pilot for Cape Air, and I still do it on the weekends in the summer. But this week when I was out in the Midwest, I actually was a passenger, and I flew in the last row on a Cape Air flight from Decatur, Illinois to Chicago. And the experience of flying on a Cape Air flight really is like no other in the airline industry. You're there, you get to see everything. It's a great sightseeing ride. So those folks who are flying from Hyannis through Nantucket to New York City are going to get to see the whole thing and be part of the experience. And that really will be part of the fun of the trip.
This new service just adds to the array of transportation options available in Hyannis and, of course, is expected to be good for the local economy.
I was out in the Midwest this week visiting Decatur, Illinois, which is one of our destinations in the Midwest. And what I said to them, and it really rings true, imagine some of those Midwest cities, St. Louis or Kansas City, where the railroad didn't stop and they wouldn't be cities. Transportation hubs and transportation nodes are really the epicenter of economic development and vibrant communities as well. It's not just the economic development, but people like to settle where they have access to go around the world and where the world has access to come in and visit them. So vibrant airports and air transportation really are today what the railroads were 100 years ago. If you could get an airport with scheduled air service, it really can help define the community.
Cape Air's new service between Barnstable Municipal Airport in Hyannis and New York City's JFK Airport begins on October 23rd. For Cape Media News, I'm Sarah Colvin. This new service adds to the myriad of transit options available in Hyannis, from boat to bus to train to plane. Coming up next, new recycling rules for the town of Barnstable.
Let me tell you about the toughest guy on earth. He has the crazy strength to lift the man that raised him up without even flinching.
This guy, no, this warrior, will always be by his father's side, even if his dad will hardly remember. If this guy isn't the toughest guy on the planet, then I don't know who is. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
The global market for recycling is changing now that China is rejecting plastics from the United States. Local recycling centers are left scrambling to find the best way to deal with our plastic waste. In Barnstable, single stream is out and separating your recyclables is back. We visited the transfer station to find out what you can and cannot recycle. Significant changes to the global recycling market mean changes at your local transfer station. Beginning October 1st, all recyclables disposed of at the Barnstable transfer station must be separated.
The big change we made is we went from a single stream operation where everything went into the same container to now we're doing a source separated. And we're asking everyone to separate out corrugated cardboard, all your plastics, your metal cans, your glass, and your mixed paper. They'll all have their own individual containers. We put up some new signage. Makes it a better product for us to try to market out there.
Instead of throwing it all in one place, you'll need to separate your plastic, paper, metal, and glass into different containers.
So your plastic bottles, your milk jugs, those all go into the mixed plastic. The mixed paper container would be your newspapers, your mail, magazines, office paper, any type of lined paper you might have, school paper this time of year. That would all go into the mixed paper. The glass is your bottles and jars, anything food or drink related. Not your actual drinking glasses, but any type of glass that a drink would come in from the packaging. That all goes in. The color doesn't matter, clear, brown, green, all goes in the same container. The metal cans, we've been doing that since July. Food cans, drink cans, tin, aluminum, steel, all that goes into the same container. And cardboard is just the way we've been doing it in the past.
And what's driving these changes at local transfer stations is a shift in the global recycling market.
It really fell apart in the last year and a half. The biggest purchaser of the U.S.'s recycling was China. And they were accepting pretty much almost all of it. And they shut it down. They went from taking 80, 90%, almost all of it, to practically nothing. Their standards, they changed. They're cleaning up their environment, which you can't fault them on that, but it came at such a fast rate that trying to catch up to that wasn't feasible. So the single stream market, which was the new thing, the easiest way to do it, to increase recycling, became a wishful thinking for people. And the standards that China was looking for couldn't be produced with what the single stream was offering. So we had to move into separating it out to get a cleaner product, a more marketable product that recycling companies, markets, other countries might want to buy.
So now towns like Barnstable are shifting from single stream to source separated in order to ensure they get the best bang for their recyclable buck. But we also wanted to know, where do our recyclables go once they leave the town's transfer station?
Right now we have a vendor we have a contract with, and they take it from our facility here. They bring the container to their facility, empty it out, and then they work the market to try to see where they can bring it to get the best price they can. And as with anything, it works its way back towards us as to how it charges us on the other end.
And that market is constantly changing.
It changes month to month. Unfortunately, it's like gasoline is the best thing I can equate it to. It's up and down. Every day is different. The only thing constant is we do have to pay for a trucking of it. That has a pretty much guaranteed cost, which we understand. But the market, we're playing it. We're trying to get the best price possible, and every day is different when it comes to it.
For now, Barnstable is offering single-stream recycling through November 1st, and recyclers are receiving assistance when they arrive at the transfer station.
What we did is we've had some extra guys work in the recycling area. Instead of 2 guys, we'll have 3. Instead of 1, we have 2. And we've been handing out flyers leading up to this. We're putting together a mailing to put out to everybody.
One of the best things you can do is be a conscious consumer. Reduce your use of plastics, reuse when you can, and when you do recycle, make sure you are aware of what is and what isn't recyclable. For Cape Media News, I'm Sarah Colvin. And stay tuned to Cape Media News in the coming weeks as we continue to track trash and find out just where your recycling ends up. Fall is here, which means changing leaves, crisp air, and scary sights. Captain Lazarus's haunted house opens this weekend right here at the Cape Cod Community Media Center. Gabrielle Rawson gives us an inside look.
Prepare to get spooked in Dennisport. Captain Lazarus's Haunted Harbor returns with new frights for the whole family.
The Haunted Harbor is the most fun you're going to have this Halloween. You're going to have an amazing time. You're going to see something new, and it's going to a good cause.
Creator John Sullivan built his first haunted house 40 years ago to raise money for Barnstable High School's theater department. After retirement, he decided to continue the tradition at the Cape Cod Community Media Center.
I love Halloween, and it's a good fundraiser. We decided to raise scholarships for high school kids who want to go into the arts, and I also wanted to up the profile of the media center.
There's over 10 different rooms here at the Haunted Harbor, and each one is more terrifying than the last.
There's a lot of scary rooms here, and they'll all take a piece of your heart.
It's lots of cool stuff with actors that are coming out and scaring people in costume and animatronic creatures. It's a unique maritime-themed haunted harbor. It's really a lot of fun.
Who knows what you'll meet in the Haunted Harbor?
But it's more than a haunted house. Each room provides an interactive experience.
Each one has a little story attached, but there's this overarching story involving the normal world and the supernatural world. And they'll become privy to this story by way of the guides, these undead mariners that will guide the groups through each room.
If you like being scared, this is definitely a chance to come and see something scary.
We've actually scared out adults crying. Yes.
The Haunted Harbor may be scary, but it's safe.
We try to make it safe for people coming through, and most of all, we try to make it safe for the people who are participating in it inside.
The great thing about this harbor is we have a lot of fun here, and it's very scary, but we take safety very seriously here. So there's emergency exits located throughout. If someone's too scared, especially the little ones, all of our crew here is very well trained in how to get people out of the harbor in a very non-spooky way.
Captain Lazarus's Haunted Harbor opens this weekend.
The Haunted Harbor tickets are $10 each. You can buy them at the door when you come to the Haunted Harbor here at 17 Shad Hole Road in Dennisport, which is the Cape Cod Community Media Center. We send people usually in groups of 5 or 6, but if you come in a smaller group, we'll get you some friends so you don't get too scared of the dark. Expect to have a really good time and to see a lot of new things this year that you didn't get to see in the past 2 years of the Haunted Harbor. We have some surprises up our sleeve.
It's a lot of fun, and it's definitely appropriate for kids our age.
It's fun to get scared.
Yeah.
For people who like to get scared, come on by.
Come down and see, or else.
For Cape Media News, I'm Gabrielle Rawson.
Captain Lazarus's Haunted Harbor opens this Friday and Saturday, and then will open for a 6-day run from the 25th through the 30th. Performances begin at 6 p.m. That brings this episode of Cape Media News to a close. We'll be back next week with more. For Cape Media News, I'm Sarah Colvin.